Layton, Utah, situated north of Salt Lake City, contains a haunted secret: Layton City Park. During World War II, the city of Layton was transformed by the construction of Hill Field, an important supply and maintenance base for the U.S. military. With the large influx of servicemen and women and their families, space was needed to house them. On open farmland, Vertland Park was constructed. Over half of Layton's total city population lived within the 72-acre park. Even after the war, many servicemen and women made that their home. By 1962, the city within a city closed down. The city of Layton purchased the land and turned it into schools, government buildings, and a very large city park. Today, this area is a hotbed for paranormal activity, including feeling like you're being followed, feeling uneasy in the park's large trails. There are even reports of swings moving on their own with no wind present, little girls being seen by children, black figures under trees, and voices being recorded as saying, "Get out." Salt Lake City Masonic Temple, Salt Lake City, Utah. The Freemasons have always had a history of being linked with the occult. The secret nature of their rituals may have something to do with it. The Masonic Temple in Salt Lake City has its own resident spirit. The temple, built in 1926 to 1927, has been said to be haunted for many years. While cleaning out an old storage room, an urn was found with the ashes of a man named Charles Valentine. He was a Mason. No one knows why the ashes were not disposed of correctly. Since that time, strange things happened in this old building. Doors open when they are closed and locked. Lights turn on when they are off, and vice versa. You can hear doors slam when no one else is in the building. These stories have come from the caretakers that have worked there. One such caretaker even reported seeing a young girl down a hallway, and children's footprints in the ashes. Merkers Cemetery. Mercur first came into existence in 1870, not as Mercur, but as Lewistown. A small gold rush began when gold was discovered at the head of Lewistown Canyon. The population reached as high as 2,000 in 1873. Silver also was booming in the area, but soon died out, and the city of Lewistown was a ghost town by 1880. After a viable process for mining using cyanide was adopted, the city began to flourish again, extracting gold from newly mined ore as well as the leftover tailings. The city of Mercur was established in 1896. The town enjoyed a reputation of being the most moral and quiet camp on the continent due to the number of churches and good school system. On June 26, 1902, in the lower part of town, hot grease in a skillet caught fire in a Chinese lunch shack. The owner stepped out back and threw the burning grease on the ground, but a gust of wind blew the searing grease against the wooden walls of the shack. Within a matter of minutes, the entire lower part of town was engulfed in flames. Within 2.5 hours, every business building in Mercur, Utah had been destroyed, even the stone ones. Fortunately, most of the homes as well as the mill were spared. At the time, there was about 5,000 residents in the city, making it one of Utah's largest cities. The entire business area, which at that time was about 40 to 50 stores, was completely destroyed. The city rebuilt itself and continued mining operations, but by 1813 the mining operations had discontinued, and by 1916 the buildings were all gone. In recent history, the gold mine was resumed by Merkers Gold Mines Foundations, still pulling millions of dollars out of the old mines. The city cemetery is marked only with a large rock and a plaque, and houses one of the most spooky cemeteries anywhere. Weathered tombstones dot the area with picket fences surrounding the graves. Several paranormal researchers have documented feeling uneasy, feeling like they are being watched, voices coming through digital equipment, and intelligent answers to questions posed. Several researchers also complain of batteries being drained and equipment not working properly. At night, you can also see orbs, hear galloping horses, and whisperings. This is one of the most active locations in Utah. Built in 1873 by Samuel F. Lee, the old Tooele Hospital started off as a simple home for him and his family. By 1913, the Lee family had moved on from that location, and the county had turned it into a shelter for the poor and the elderly. Shortly after, it was converted into a hospital, due to there being a large need for care in the area. A newer structure was incorporated in 1953 after extensive renovations. Right out the back door is the Tooele County Cemetary, which could explain the deep spiritual and paranormal evidence collected. In the year 2000, a new hospital was built, and the old hospital was shut down. Half of the structure was still being used for elderly care. In 2006, Asylum 49 was established as a haunted attraction, and the hospital has even been featured on 2 episodes of the popular TV show Ghost Adventures. An insane amount of paranormal evidence has been collected from several groups, including video evidence of shadows, EVPs, bangs, doors opening and closing, sudden temperature drops, and orbs. This is one of the most documented haunted locations in Utah. Union Station, Ogden, Utah. A few blocks west from the Lomond Hotel is Union Station. This station was a business and cultural hub of Ogden for many decades. Many deaths have also been recorded and bodies found at the station. One of the most famous was that of worker Frank Yentzer, who was working the station as a ticket clerk. After a large fire ripped through the station in 1923, a temporary ticket counter was constructed outside. A strong gust of wind came and blew over a large stone off the tower and landed on his head. He died instantly. They say his spirit is one of 3 that currently wander the station. Other stories include that of Miss Bella Jansen, who was murdered, stuffed into a trunk, and discovered at the station. Glenna Carter, who worked the famous Electric Alley, present-day 25th Street, and was shot and killed by one of her clients after becoming obsessed with her. There have been several reports of apparitions wandering the station, footsteps on the marble floors, bangs, EVPs, and orbs. The station regularly gives paranormal tours in conjunction with paranormal investigation groups. A link to their site is included below. Lomond Hotel, Ogden, Utah. Originally called the Reed and later renamed the Bigelow Hotel, and later the Lomond Hotel, this historic hotel has a prominent place in the history of downtown Ogden. Over-the-top architecture, themed rooms, and a rich history make this a favorite place to visit. Popular paranormal stories include a bride on her honeymoon drowning in room 1102. the bride's son committing suicide after being distraught over the death of his mother and committing suicide in room 1101. A mother waiting for her son to be brought back from World War II and upon learning of her son's death, dying from a broken heart. Stories are very common in this historic hotel, including the smell of perfume on the elevator, possibly from the new bride on her honeymoon, mysterious phone calls to uninhabited rooms, calls from those rooms down to the lobby, the elevator stopping on random floors, voices, apparitions, and door slamming with no wind. It's also rumored that the wife of the previous owner of the hotel, Mrs. Eccles, wanders the hotel at night. You can still stay at this haunted hotel. Prices range from $75 to $175 per night, making it a very affordable place to investigate. Clearfield Job Corps, Clearfield, Utah. Situated in Davis County, north of Salt Lake City, Clearfield Job Corps is a career training program for at-risk youth aged 16 to 24. It gives an opportunity for this youth to learn various job skills needed to advance in society. These youth are not the only ones that make this their home. There have been several reports of hauntings at the Clearfield Job Corps, including Dorm L, which houses a nurse that used to work there. Dorm E seems to have the most hauntings, including that of an apparition of a little girl bouncing a ball, a former resident who roams the halls, and a student who killed himself while at Job Corps. Dorm M is said to have the spirit of a man who hung himself near a fire exit. The movie theater, being the hub of it all, was once the morgue for the location. While some of these have not been substantiated, they will be the focus of some investigations in the future. If you have been there or are currently there, we would like to know about your experience. St. Anne's Retreat, Logan Canyon, Logan, Utah. Recently featured on an episode of Ghost Adventures, St. Anne's Retreat has a lot of stories to it. Originally purchased as a Catholic nunnery and retreat, there are several reports that it was used more of a place to shun and hide nuns who had broken their vows. In other words, nuns who became pregnant were sent there to have their babies and later give them up for adoption, being placed in orphanages across the state. There's one such story where one nun decided she could not give her baby up. She snuck out in the middle of the night and started running in the woods, trying to escape the retreat. The head nuns and others pursued her until the nun placed the baby under a bush and led those who pursued her off the baby's trail. It worked, and the nun went back to get the baby only to find that the baby was gone. She went back to the retreat only to find that the baby was face down in the pool, drowned to death. Enraged, this nun cursed the retreat and the land that the retreat sat on. She then poisoned herself with some local berries to join her child in death. Walking around the retreat, one gets a sense of despair and darkness. The whole area seems to be blanketed with the curse and dark presence. Reports of orbs, lights, presences pushing and oppressing the visitors is common. Other recorded evidence includes babies crying, children's voices, and growls. The legend of the head nun and her dogs is a popular one, where dogs can still be heard barking at night. In 1997, a group of teenagers were also held hostage and shot by a group of 3 armed individuals on the property. Was this due to the curse? Brigham City Indian Schools, Brigham City, Utah. While the paranormal nature of the old Indian school is still being debated, there have been a lot of urban legends and stories to circulate the internet. Nothing can of course be confirmed until paranormal teams are given the okay to investigate the area. Originally founded as a military hospital treating mainly amputations, it was one of the earliest adopters of testing penicillin treatments, prosthetics, and x-rays. German and Italian POWs were also kept here and did various functions at the hospital. As a famous hospital in the 40s, there were a number of famous appearances, including Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Clark Gable, and Shirley Temple. After the war, there was a steady decline in the need for the hospital. In 1950, it was renovated and called the Intermountain Indian School, eventually reaching a population of 2,150 students. In 1984, the school was closed and the buildings had fallen into disrepair. The area is guarded and a strong police presence drives away any amateur investigators without permission. Reports or voices are common and also include footsteps, apparitions, shadows, sounds of gunshots, orbs, cold spots, and various EVP evidence. There are tunnels underneath the schools that people say have been used for satanic rituals, and blood and altars have been found. These stories have not been verified, but cannot be denied either.